All right. Moving on to Florida going to Oxford for a much anticipated game, and not because Florida has a good record and has playoff potential, but because they want to hire Lane Kiffin. And most fans looked at this as just an opportunity to scout their future head coach. At least that's what I keep hearing from people who look on the message boards and have been reporting on social media and from fans at the game. I was at this game,
It was
and
also almost playoff clincher game.
technically, I
It
once
is.
again am
It
not
is.
gonna get over my skis on this because I think a 14 plus point Egg Bowl loss would eliminate Ole Miss from the
No, we'd have
playoffs.
to beat y'all 70-0 for y'all to miss the playoff. I mean,
I don't know
trust me.
about that, man. With the kind of chaos that can happen, nothing's certain, especially with Ole Miss football. If Lane Kiffin were to leave, and this team were to lose him, I think that that also impacts where they rank us. So if we let's say he decides to leave between now and the Egg Bowl, or he says he's going to leave after the Egg Bowl, and then we lose. Well, not only did we just end the season on the most sour note possible, you lose to your in-state rival who just needed to win for a bowl game. You lose your coach, who's currently the most sought-after coach in college football and one of the best play callers in college football. And now you got to go to the playoffs, and you're probably a bottom seed, even if you make it. I think the committee looks at that and says, we might not want to put this team in. So that's something to think about. I'm pessimistic as an Ole Miss fan, so I'm looking for the worst options here. But this game was really close in the fourth quarter. I expected this game to be competitive. When Florida shows up, they show up. They showed up against Georgia a couple weeks back, and they had a pretty similar game to this. They were winning 20-17, and then Georgia ended up scoring late and icing the game with the ball and winning 24-20. Ole Miss took a 27-24 lead in the fourth quarter off of an interception by Wyatt Williams. They had a chance to go down and take a two possession lead, turned it over on downs on the goal line again. And then Florida proceeds to do nothing with the ball. We end up stopping them and putting on a garbage time touchdown, winning 34-24. This is about what I expected. I didn't expect Florida to be leading most of the game, but I did expect it to be very competitive. So at the end of the day, Florida got completely outgained by Ole Miss. I think it was like a 200-yard separation. Ole Miss went for over 530 total yards on 31 carries, 224, and three touchdowns from Kawan Lacey rushing. He had his best game of his career and solidified himself as one of the best players in the SEC with 19 total touchdowns this season. He's been playing great football down the stretch. So Ole Miss has found a running game which they didn't have this time last year moving into the playoffs. And they did miss the playoffs, I think, largely in part because they could not close out games running the ball. I think this was a huge part of this game. I think if Ole Miss had the same team from last year running the ball, we would have lost this game. I don't think we could have closed it out. But time of possession here, Ole Miss had 38 minutes time of possession. That means we chewed the clock and we ran the ball the whole game pretty much. And Trinidad still threw for over 300, but we did a lot of running the football that we would not have normally done with the players we had last year. So being able to kind of open up the playbook and say, all right, we want to choose some clock here. We want to hand off the ball on 3rd and 8. We have the ability to do that now. That opens up the playbook tremendously for this offense. So with that being said, Ole Miss goes 5 for 7 on 4th down. Two of those 4th downs being inside the 5 yard line and not coming away with any points. That was tough. Ole Miss also had a hands to the face penalty get called incorrectly by the officials that could have resulted in Ole Miss getting a 1st down and not taking the field goal that they made on that play and getting a touchdown instead. But the officials made a incorrect call. I won't get too much into it because we ended up winning the game by 10 anyway, but not a great call by the officials. Lane Kiffin was pretty upset about that. Lagway ended up playing a pretty good game to start. He had a couple deep balls in this game that made me see that when his offensive line holds up, which we did not get any pressure on the quarterback in this game, which was surprising. He's still a pretty talented player, like we thought he was. So he can make the throws. His offensive line, his receivers around him just have to make plays. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as he maybe looks to transfer or stay if a specific said person ends up coming and coaching there next year. I just saw a notification earlier that said he followed Lane Kiffin on Instagram. So that's really
Huge
important.
news.
Huge news. I actually saw one of Ole Miss's staffers when going to talk to him after the game, and then one of the Florida staffers like went and grabbed him, like pulled him away. So it's kind of like I forgot what game it was the other day. I think it was maybe it was Lenore Sellers after a game. Somebody tried to talk to him. It was super funny. But anyway, this game was really competitive. I think a lot of people expected a blowout here, but Ole Miss almost comes in clutch with a backdoor cover here, just missing the cover by I think a point to half a point.
I expected a blowout and was wrong.
Yeah, it's just chalk rarely ever flies in an SEC night game, so I didn't feel too great about Ole Miss dominating in this one. Had a lot of chances to, a lot of statistical categories that made sense for them too, but at the end of the day, Florida came to play. So really interesting game. I had a great time. Really, really cool to see Ole Miss finish another season 7-0 at home. If Lane Kiffin ends up leaving, he's left behind a really solid legacy of really, really great home win stretches. I think we're like 35-3 at home since like 2023 or something, or 2021. I can't remember what the timestamp was, but that's insane. As an Ole Miss fan, I can't even believe I'm saying that. But there's a lot of drama with him right now. Who knows what's going to happen? I just continue to stick by the same statement that I feel like really only Lane Kiffin knows what he's going to do. And at the end of the day, whatever he decides to do, Ole Miss is a better program because of what he did there. And if he leaves tomorrow, Ole Miss can get a guy like John Sumrall in there, and I think they can still have a good football program. If he stays, he could build a dynasty there. That's probably really optimistic, but I just genuinely don't think he can't do what he can do at Ole Miss, and for some reason think he needs to do better at Florida. You know, but needless to say, I'm not Lane Kiffin. I'm not in his inner circle, so I don't know what he's going to do. We'll find out. I don't think there's supposed to be an ultimatum before the Egg Bowl, like everybody was saying, but there's always a chance something comes out before that. So we'll be watching for that.